Welcome to the podcast, What the Flex, where I talk to badass women about their health, wellness, and fitness journeys. My name is Uta Weiss, and I am your host. In this very first episode, I am speaking with Laura Erdem. She's a sales leader, runner, and all-around powerhouse. In this episode, we dive into her daily routines, the mental health benefits of running, and how she balances high expectations at both her personal and professional life. Laura also shares her thoughts on personal branding, the power of community support, and the challenges of comparison, which I think we all struggle with, both in sales and in life. Plus, she opens up about her big move to New York and what it means for her next chapter. And now, keep flexing, enjoy listening. Welcome to this very first episode. I am super happy to welcome my very first guest here. Her name is Laura Erdem, and I am not going to beat around the bush much longer. Laura, welcome. And I would love for you to just give a quick intro about yourself. Who are you and what do you do professionally? Why do you do what you do professionally? And how did you become the person you are today?
Yeah, thank you very much, Uta. I'm very happy to be here. And when you asked me to come on podcast to talk about this, I immediately said yes, because it is a topic that we speak less about than we speak about our careers. We speak about everything we've achieved and how did we do that, what are the hacks of like our successes and so on. And we don't speak about health and women's health as well enough, I would say. So what I do, I work in sales. I work in a startup. Dream Data have been there for now more than 4 years, which is ages for in a regular career. I was employee number 9. Now we're over 60. Growing. I'm moving to New York with the company as well. So it's a very, very exciting journey. And before that, I was working in sales and big enterprises too. So I have a lot to compare, like what is it to work in an enterprise? What is it to work in a startup? What is it that people should or should not be choosing depending on how they feel about one or the other company as well. So this is me. I've got 2 kids. I've got a husband. So we're moving overseas with the whole family. It's a lot of planning, right now.
Okay, yeah, that sounds very exciting. And I hope we can speak about that move a little later on today. But maybe to ease into this a little bit, this podcast should be about you professionally, but also with a bigger focus actually on your health journey and things like that. And I think this is very fitting, the next question. Imagine you have a perfect start of the day, and today with the election kind of results is probably not the very best day to imagine this. So you need a lot of imagination right now. Imagine you wake up, it's a perfect day, you feel very well rested, and you have an open morning, an open day ahead. What is the very first thing that you do to set the tone for the day to make sure that it's going to turn out great?
Yeah, and I have an exact perfect steps of things that is always happening in my mornings. And it has been happening for a really long time. So it became a habit. I don't know how healthy or great it is, but it makes me feel good. So what I do, at first I wake up my kids, we cuddle in bed for like 5 at least minutes. The next thing I make their breakfast. And while I'm making their breakfast, I'm making my lemon water for myself. Warm lemon water with some cayenne pepper in it and get my vitamins in. I don't eat breakfast. I then, when the kids are ready, they get ready by themselves. They're big now. Then I run to school together with them. We don't have enough time with our kids, especially now. I work both time zones, Europe and the US. So try to spend as much time as I can with them. And that is one of those times. So to wake up together with them and they bike to school. It's a bit over 1 kilometer to school. And from there, then I take my journey further. They're big. Usually they would say, oh, no, don't go to school with me and stuff. They don't say that. They like it. And I enjoy it as well. And then I say goodbye to them, run a little more. So I run around 5-6K around the canal in Copenhagen. And then I'm back, take a shower, start working. That's the best start of the day.
I also remember when I hit you up, we were actually connected on LinkedIn for a little while. And when I had this idea, I had to think of you immediately because I remembered your content on LinkedIn, which is, of course, very sales and marketing and related, but also you sometimes post when you work out. So I was like, I saw that you're very active. And I remember one day it was a summer day, you posted something in a sleeveless shirt. I just saw your arms and I was like, Jesus, she got fit and toned arms. I wonder what her fitness goals are. And when we spoke about this, no, when I hit you up, actually, your first response was a picture in front, I think, of the lakes in Copenhagen, I don't even know, of a kettlebell. And I was like, okay, well, I have to talk to her. Perfect. And when we then spoke about it, and now you've mentioned this as part of your perfect day, perfect morning, run. And you also said something that I found very interesting is when you don't run, what then happens to you? You said, if I don't run, my day is kind of fucked. And I feel, or I think this must be very pressuring at times. How do you deal with that if you have a day where you can't run?
Yeah, it is very rare. So for me, not running is more stressful than running. So when you were asking about like what kind of fitness goals you've got and so on, so I train every day and it's not a goal. I just do that. And some of the times I was thinking, oh, but now I'm like coming to 40s and you should focus more on your muscles and proteins and stuff like that. And running doesn't really help you do that. It does a bit, it tones you up, but not really. It's more for my mental health. And then it's really hard. It's stressing for me not to run. So so if my husband constantly is also saying it's like, maybe you should take a break. It's like I'm either in it or out. Like I cannot do like, oh, today I don't feel like it, I won't run. No, it's like I feel like it all the time, even though I'm sick. I was sick a month ago and I had to go to New York and Boston and I was really sick. I couldn't speak. I was coughing a lot and so on. I did go out running anyway. No. And if I don't do that, like especially when I'm traveling, when I wake up at the hotel and I'm thinking, oh, should I sleep half an hour more or should I go out running? Even though if I was not sleeping enough, for me, it's better to go out, have an exercise, come back, and the day is much better. So for me, it's the other way around. If I don't like running is not stressful for me. It's if I don't, then I'm stressed.
Has that always been the case? Because I remember for myself, I have times where I'm like that, but then I have times, maybe it's weeks or months, where I'm like, I just don't want to, work out or do anything. Has there been a switchery that flipped at some point?
No, I train myself for a lot of things like in my mind. So it's very, very stupid stuff. Like when you were a child, where you play those games when you go on the pavement and you should not step on lines or something like that. The stuff you do. So in my head, for example, I have a fitness watch and I have to run at least 100K a month. And if I don't do that, not a good month. And it's stupid because nothing will change if you run 98. But it used to have to be that. Okay, now I will stop looking at that watch at the yearly run rate. And then I will maybe run just 3 times a week. And then twice of those, the other days I will be lifting weights. And it's so so I haven't looked at that step counter and run counter for almost a month now. So I don't know how much I was running back in October. I think it's around 60K, but I don't know.
And don't look at it. Take the next month. I mean, it takes a lot of determination to have such a habit that you really keep up daily. And I knew you first from LinkedIn. I knew the professional Laura. And if you look at your LinkedIn profile, you have more than 30,000, almost 35,000 followers on LinkedIn. So you're quite the name in the scene, right? In the sales scene. And I just wonder how, if one of the other influenced the other, like, do you are there any parallels of the habits or of the mindset that you have in your health approach that helps you perform better professionally, or the other way around? Maybe you can share a little bit about how they are intertwined, if you will.
Yeah, I think they are a lot. So I push myself to things even though they're feeling uncomfortable. I just have to get it over with, like just to run. And I do enjoy it, but there are days when I'm thinking a minute sleep would have been nice, but I just go out and do it. It's the same with any type of sale or uncomfortable conversation or a goal that you set for yourself, or even like working in the evening when you know that it's not very good for you. But in my mind, I'm going to achieve more and I'm going to be ready for the day after if I did some certain things as well. So I think it's very interconnected. For example, the same stupid idea of I have to run every day is for I have to post every day. I have been posting every day for 4 years now.
Even on the weekend?
No, skipping the weekends. Weekends are optional if I prefer to. Every working day. It's the same with running as well. I skip weekends. I take breaks on weekends.
Okay, so you do have breaks on running. Okay.
Weekends. Yeah, exactly. So it's the same, and I think that's where it comes from. But it keeps me sane. So I started running, but like really running daily during COVID. Because before that, I used to go and train in the fitness center. I used to have a fitness subscription, and I would used to do like twice, 3 times per week, and some 1 hour training in some class or whatever. And then COVID came, then you can't go to any of the classes. Then I was like, okay, I'll start running. And that would kept me sane. I was in Gardner at that time. It was a hard time, very hard time. And it really like kept me going. And I think that's also like you have to put yourself into those situations that put you up for success. It's so cliche to say that. But in my mind, this is helpful for me. And for some people, maybe 2 or 3 times per week is fine to train. For me, I feel good about it. And that's the only thing that matters.
I bet you also feel good about posting every day. So you have these habits and then you can say, okay, cool. Check that box. I feel good.
Yeah, it's out. But I think another thing that I train myself to is also to get out of that, because that's another healthy thing too. Because, well, it sounds unhealthy that you care about having 100K a month or posting every week. What if you didn't? What would happen? So that I have to push myself into that other side of uncomfortable situation just to prove myself that I can do this. Because it's hard. It's just as hard to start as it is to not do something when you have that type of a habit as well.
Yeah. I mean, you did mention when we did the sync, you said, I don't really have fitness goals, but running 100K in a specific amount of time, that is kind of a fitness goal, right? That you aspire to reach.
No, I run slowly. It's seriously just like that childish game where you should not be stepping on the lines of the pavement or something like that. No, I don't have any fitness goals. I know that I have to stay healthy my whole life, be able to stand up from the sofa, whatever that is when you're getting older. But I run pretty slow. Whoever I run with is like, but you run every day. It's like, yeah, but I sprint maybe once a week out of those times. Otherwise, I'm just enjoying that time. Today I was running in this beautiful autumn in the other side of the canal. It's amazing. It's nature. That's what helps me. When I have hard days as well, I go out and run without any music. So there was a very hard time at a time in my career where I was really struggling. And I noticed that I did not run with any music or podcast for several weeks. So I ran out, nothing in the ears, and especially in the nature. It's the best.
Do you mind sharing a little bit around that time what you did? Because we speak we speak a lot about your mindset right now, and you do have a very structured life, I feel, and a lot of expectations on yourself. And when something hits you hard, how was that for you? What happened and how did you live through it?
Yeah, well, to start with, I put too high expectations of myself. And that's what people say to me. So it's like, come on, live a little, relax. And I think that comes very far away from my childhood. I grew up in a country that is post-Soviet, and now you can do everything. So what is it that you're doing? Some people are doing a lot. It's like, you should do a lot as well. You put yourself into those situations that you can literally achieve and do anything. Now you can travel. Now you can do this. And so I think that mindset comes from there. And those high expectations also pushes me into situations where I am in a constant, like, not disapproval, but more or less like I'm dissatisfied with everything I've got, which is a really, really bad trait. I listen to myself. I try to tell myself like every single day. And I talk about that with my husband all the time. It's like, what we've got abundance of everything. Seriously, success, money, time, kids, health, everything. But at the same time, when you are in those situations or you are in a hard work situation, you feel that everything is shit. You don't look into all the stuff that you've got, but this situation is shit. And I did not reach this goal. And I'm going to work overnight to be able to do something else in order to hit that specific goal. Or even another very, very toxic thing that comes into those situations is people pleasing. So you're trying to get out of that hole that you're dissatisfied with what you've got and what you're trying to achieve because it's not the same all the time, which you've set up yourself to. And then some other people in the company are dissatisfied. and you look up to those people. And even if those are not your bosses, you look up to those people and you feel, oh, I'm going to disappoint them. Or what will they think about me? And they don't. That's very exciting. And usually they don't. You think about yourself 90% more than whoever ever would think about you. And that's where the toxicity comes out of it. So the hard time that I went through myself was there was a dip in revenue at Dreamgate at that time. And it was really, really hard because at that time it felt like more or less blind leading the blind of what is it that we should do more of? Why are we not closing those deals? This quarter is looking okay, but it could and should be a bit better because of the revenue expectations, because of all of our investors looking at us and so on. We're doing great. When we're looking back, we're doing great, but we could be doing 5 times greater. And then you're trying to figure out with your colleagues, with your boss, with everybody in the company, what else should we be doing? Why are those certain deals are not closing? Why some of those deals are we losing some of them? And most of the times, that's even the worst of the worst. We were not losing the deals to our competitors, losing the deals for them not choosing anything within a certain time. I was thinking, is that me? Am I bad in sales? Is that the market? Because at that time we were also speaking about the dip in the US and everybody was speaking, oh, so Biden is coming off and what's going to happen. And we will not mention US today. But we do. I'm selling to that market. So it's like happy and think about that all the time. And I just had to live this through. And that's the thing that I know, that whichever hard situation I'm in, it will pass. It might pass within a month, a week, maybe a year, but it will pass and I'll survive it, which means that I will push through, it will come through. Some other times I try to convince myself that every hard situation is just a tip before I excel again. But the worst thing is you don't notice when you start excelling. That's really, really bad and very toxic, but that's how I live.
Yeah, you usually only see it when you look back. I once did an exercise it was on Mind Valley, I think, and it asked you to look back like on specific milestones, like good ones and also bad ones. And you could really see it like a curve of it went down and then it went up and then it went down and went up. Like after every hard time comes a moment where you said, like you said, where you excel. But in the moment, you barely realize it. So it's super, I think, healthy also to look back. What have I achieved? Like, where was I 3 years ago? What did I do in those years? And where am I at today? It's very, very nice. Thanks for sharing that story, by the way, because it's easy to think and look at you, at your profile on your social channels and stuff and think, wow, she's got it all figured out. But it comes with those moments where everything's just shit, and it feels like you're in a downward spiral. And it's sometimes, for me at least, it's super refreshing to know that even I'm just saying, people like you, when I look at you, I do think, wow, she's got it all figured out. You also overcome like very, very hard times, and it's very important and vital for everyone to, I think, learn how you did it, and that it does come with a lot of work in your mind, like pushing yourself, pushing through. I don't think pushing through and just saying, I just have to push through. Maybe that's not always applicable, but for you it worked, and it's just very good to know, and also looking at the wider picture. But I'm curious. I wanted to ask, following up on this, did you work through all of that yourself? Did you have people that you trusted? Did you have help, maybe therapy, counseling, or something that helped you to come through this and look at this from maybe a more objective point of view?
Yeah, I sometimes wish I did some kind of consulting with a therapist, whatever that is, but I wait to the last minute till I go to the doctors, and I think it's the same situation here. Yeah. I think it would be very useful to do that, but most of the times, fortunately, how much that is, but my husband is the person that I talk with most of the times, and he's very pragmatic. It's like, relax, it's fine, it will pass. And sometimes that's what you need as well, because you in yourself, you know that it is fine, but just going out and talking about it is important, but at the same time, not over talking and over focusing on the negative stuff, if there is anything negative. In addition to that, I have a small group of friends that I trust as well that are in very high-performing jobs, and they are women you would always think, she's got it all. And they don't. and at least in their minds. And it's much easier to speak about that with them as well. So these are the people that I usually go to for any types of conversations.
Speaking about the toxicity and about the negative, not speaking too much about it. When we prepared for this episode, you mentioned something I thought was very interesting, that negative stuff doesn't sell. I mean, you do work in sales, you post every day, and it is very jolly. Like, I look at your content myself and I'm motivated. So it definitely works. However, I found it like, okay, wow, you're actually right. If you share too many negative things, or you whine about stuff, or you criticize too much, it simply doesn't sell. Have you ever thought about what kind of impact that might have on people that look at your profiles?
Yeah. And it's tough because all of those platforms are set up for some certain sale. When we're looking at somebody else's pictures, let's say we take Instagram, you always look into some other person to compare yourself with. And you like to look at those pictures because they make you feel good. And it's something inspiring in that. On LinkedIn, I think it's even worse because it's a professional platform, which already puts us into a box. Don't do too personal stuff because that is not important for anybody, which is bullshit. I think it's important to share some of the stuff, but again, not too much. There's a balance. And people like to see other people and it attracts you and so on. So you know me because I put my face out in there. I do video, I do pictures and so on. But negativity doesn't sell, especially not on LinkedIn. It does sell on Twitter. It does sell when people have opinions. But as soon as you do have your opinions, you also limit yourself from some certain groups of people that in a certain time, you probably will have to sell to. And those people, then, I mean, is it worth it? What would you achieve by sharing some of the maybe vulnerable stuff? It does still work. People do remember and do understand it, but negativity does not sell. Like, choose wisely. Because you asked, like, what kind of effect does it have on people? I don't think about that. I am on LinkedIn literally to sell. I either sell our product or I sell my personal brand. And when I'm there, as with my personal brand, companies get attracted to work with me. If I was talking negatively, I would guess less people would reach out to me to have a collaboration because, well, usually that doesn't sell. So unfortunately, I don't think about that. And when I'm saying unfortunately, which means that probably there are people who could be positively affected if I shared more open and vulnerable posts, but I don't, with the idea that I'm on the platform to work. This is my work. And this is my future as well because it pays the bills.
Yeah, that makes a total sense. I definitely get that. To dive into this a little deeper, you are a woman in sales is kind of rare, at least in Germany, but I bet everywhere else as well. So I think I'm not exaggerating if I say you are a role model to a lot of women that aspire to be in sales. What is one piece of advice that you could give young people that are stepping into this and want to start becoming as successful maybe as you are, but on their own terms, professionally and privately as well? Do you have any piece of advice that you learned on your journey that you could give them?
Yeah, for sure. So to start with, you have to look for people that inspire you and speak with them. Ask, how does their day look like? What is it that they do, and what do they like about it? What do they dislike about it? That's how I started in sales, literally, because I thought, oh, this glamorous life of traveling abroad and having Rolex watches and this and that. And I was like, this seems fun and I'm good at talking. Why not? Then I started talking with people in the company that I was working with, and it seemed like fun was happening there. But at the same time, there was a lot of struggle because you are on the front line to deliver revenue to the company, and you are on the front line to be cut if you did not deliver that revenue at that time. So there is that much closer balance to what you put into it, reward, and also a big decline. You're the first one to be cut as well. So seek people to speak with them if that's something you actually want to do. And if you feel like it and you're still not sure, try to do it. So what I did in my career is when I was started to look into people in sales, I started to look for jobs in sales because in the current company I was at, they were saying, yeah, you're good at what you're doing right now, and we don't look for people and stuff. So fine. Then I got 2 job offers for more junior sales positions. and I chose one of them. And I moved to Red Hat for an inside sales position, which was a step down in my career. But I just wanted to test this out. The good thing was, of course, that the salary was higher to what was I getting before. So it was not as big of a downside to choose a lesser senior position or something like that. First of all, talk with people. Second of all, surround yourself with people that are in similar situations. So what I'm doing as well, big time, is I surround myself with women in sales. I talk with them all the time, and I talk with men all the time as well, because I also want to be like the best ones. Usually they're men, unfortunately. And I do support other women in those roles as well, because there were women I looked up to back when I started the career. I still look up to those women. They're still in sales. But right now, for example, at Train Data, we're more than 50% women in sales, actually, in our company right now. One of my colleagues, she asked, "Oh, Laura, should we do like women in sales community together?" I said, "MC, I think you should do it alone. I'll support you all the time, but you should do it alone. I'll come to every single event that you do, but do it for yourself." And that community now has, I think, over 1,000 members in Copenhagen right now, which is insane. It took her a year. And those type of steps also helps other women to see, oh, there is a possibility to do something and to feel good about it, that we're different. We're selling differently. We're talking to clients differently. And that's also all right. We have to learn from the best, but also adjust to the way that it works, because the buyers are also women and men at the same time. So kind of, it should not be just men selling to everybody. It should be men and women selling to everybody.
That's right. That's right. I'm also a big fan of always involving everyone, especially if it's a female focus on feminist events as well. I don't like it usually when there's no men involved and we're like, okay, we only have to talk about women. Wow. Anyway, speaking of building a network, speaking to people, having someone to look up to for inspiration, I think it's a thin line between that and comparing yourself and being like, oh, I want to be like her. We did speak about this when we prepared for today a little bit, and I do think you had powerful messages to share. But I'm curious to know, I mean, you probably went through something to come to this conclusion that, oh my God, comparison for me is very toxic. But I think we all at one point in our lives had someone that we were like, I want to be like her. I want to be like this person. Did you ever have these moments, and how did you overcome it, or did it hold you back from something? Can you share a little bit around that?
For sure. I have it all the time, but I shift the mindset to what can I learn and how can we become good at this together? Like it's very cliche the way I say it, but
just say it.
No, but what I mean is that it's very natural. This is how social media is set up together, that look at this beautiful body. Do you have the same body? No, you don't. So I try to find out what you can do to get the same thing. And it's the same for women's careers as well, for whoever there is that comes into the room. One thing that I always ground myself with, we're all on different paths, because that mind always comes into, but we're all on different paths. This person might seem very successful at this situation, but you don't know what the person had to go through in order to do that. Well, this person seems to have a perfect family and have enough time with the family and also leave work at 4. But this person probably has to do some other sacrifices as well. So we have different paths, each of and every of us. And I have to work with myself every single time on that, because as I'm saying, society is set up for that, like longing something different than you've got, and not having enough of your own stuff and wishing that it was different or was better and so on. And what's even better when we're all of these people that we're talking with, the people in our circle are like the top 1% of the whole society of both earnings, safety, health, and so on. It's like, what else did you long for? And just stay in your path.
It has, I think, a lot to do with also gratefulness. It's very easy to get caught up in things and not really see where am I at right now. As something that I personally also struggle with. I always think a lot about the future and what could happen and stuff. And I have my husband that is like very much living in the moment. And he's like, why do you worry about that? And I'm like, but it's important to worry about that. And it's then easy to compare with other people, other things, I do that a lot too. And maybe also circling back a little, drawing the circle back into health and fitness. We did speak about social media as well. It's easy to compare. You just touched upon this. You see someone having this perfect body and you want the same and yada, yada. And you mentioned something, pink reality. I have never heard this before, but what is it? What does that mean to you? But because I think it has something to do with that comparison part of things, and how can we move out of this pink reality that we all live in on social media?
Before we go there, I'll get onto that topic. I just remembered one thing that I recently listened to one of the podcast episodes of The Diary of the CEO. I'll have to find what the name was of it, but it was talking about the happiness. So the only time when you can be happy is now. If you think about the past and regret stuff and so on and so forth, everything gets like muddy and you're sad and like, oh, why did I do this? Why did I not do that? And so on. If you think about the future, you're feeling anxiety about the things that probably are not even going to happen. So why do you worry about them at all? It's like right now, for us having this conversation, it's beautiful because we're talking about things that are important for us. Somebody who will be listening to this podcast in, I don't know, a month will also be feeling, okay, so in this situation, I can't actually be unhappy. I can only be here, understand something somebody else is saying. And if I switch my mindset to future and start to think about what's going to happen next meeting and I'm not preparing, so then you start to get anxiety. No, being here and now, prepare for the future, but don't overthink about it. Yeah. So this, I just wanted to mention that because I think it was powerful. And about the pink reality, I don't know if it's pink, if it's white, if it's like very clear color or something like that. But we're living in this illusion of stuff that everybody is having their perfect life.
Yeah.
When you're looking into all of your Instagram feeds and you're going to see, oh, she knows how to dress perfectly, but he has all that figured out, how you should eat in order to, I don't know, lose fat. That person has the perfect career and all the best advices for how to advance in your career. But I don't know. It's like, the fuck you do? It's just that the content they're creating, it seems like it is that type of reality that they've got it figured out. And you've got to figure it out as well. If you were focusing on just that one thing, I don't know, talking about having, I don't know, straight fingers, which I don't like, and you only spoke about how can you make sure that your fingers are straight, each and every of those, then other people will start thinking, oh, my fingers are straight. So that means that I have to listen to her about her content, how to make my fingers straight, because she has the secret bullet and they don't. And that type of reality we live in is just so crazy. I had to switch off of Instagram and stuff because it feeds you stuff without you even having to think about the split second, why is it doing that? And it's so scary.
I know. I totally get it. Like there's this trend out there right now. You're doing like RDLs or something in the gym and you put something around your leg to activate your glutes more. And I'm like, what? I don't want to be going through that. Like I just want to do my RDLs and get over with it. But I don't want to like, I don't know, repress blood flow. So I'm like, where does this even come from?
Yeah.
And sometimes I also think people just do that, straight fingers, yeah. Just to put something out there, just something, you know. And you did mention though that we all know that there is a lot of misinformation, especially around health and fitness out there. Where do you get your information for yourself that you can try, that you can apply to yourself when it comes to your own health?
Yeah. So just like with the positivity on LinkedIn, everybody's trying to sell something. So I'm there to sell, and the same goes for everybody on Instagram as well. They're there to sell something. Even though they're not advertising for something, they're trying to sell the illusion of their perfect life or whatever. So there are so many advices, and everybody thinks that, well, if I put those advices out and people are going to follow me, and they are, that's the worst thing about it. So where do I get my knowledge from? I mean, I train because I feel good. What makes me feel good? I train because I feel good. If I eat candy every evening, because sometimes I do that as well, I don't feel good. I don't sleep well. But then you fall into that and then you think, I still want it, but I'm not going to sleep well. It's not good for me. Good. All right. Next thing. What else? Like running a marathon. It's great. I probably can do it, but do you feel good of that? Do you feel good after you've done? Do you feel good going out for runs for 4 hours and not being with your family within that time? No, you don't. So maybe it's not healthy, not only for the body, but also for your mind. So it's like I find those things that are good or not good for me, and some of them I have to live with, like running 100K every month. Is it good for you? No, but it feels nice, and it doesn't really do anything bad for you either. So some of those stupid things I have to live with, but it's like eating enough protein, even eating enough vegetables. I do listen to a lot of those health podcasts as well. And most of them are good advices, but only in moderation. So it's like, eat your veggies first, eat your protein and this and that, and not too much coffee before evening and so on. And then you just filter it out, what's right for you really, and then see how it feels.
And that is something that you also said, sports and health and fitness is not about the looks, but it is about the way it makes you feel. And I think that really hits the nail on the head. Just listen to your body and see how you feel with it. Consume, but see how you feel, how your body reacts to it, how your mind reacts to it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Maybe also looking at the time a little bit, let's move on to, I think, yeah, what I'm also curious about. You have that really big move ahead. You mentioned this in the beginning. You're going to New York. You currently live in Denmark. How are you going to juggle this all? And how are you going to keep up with your habits? Because, I mean, Copenhagen is a very tiny city and New York is big. Does that, you think, affect your habits that you have? How are you going to, what are the first things that you're going to do? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. But to start with, I chose to stay in the now, because when we started to plan the move, it was almost a year ago. And already there, I started looking for flats. I started to think, how will this be with schools and so on? And then I figured out, oh my, I can't cope with this. It's too much, because even before going to bed, instead of scrolling some doom, I don't know, Insta feeds, I was looking into flats in New York. It's like, where will I live? Okay, so how would this be? And so I was like, oh my God, I can't do anything about this just yet. Like, to get a visa, we have to do this and this and that and so on. And then we can find a flat. Okay, relax. So like, take one step at a time. That's the most important part. And we're taking some smaller steps. Some of them my husband does, some of them that I do. And for the habits, I mean, New York is the perfect place to run. This is the best sport. So I will continue doing that. We're choosing to rent a place that has a gym in the building as well, which means that that will be an option too. And the building will also have, luckily, probably a tennis court. So then the family can go and play tennis. So it's like doing those types of things. One thing that I'm very afraid about, that people always say, that the American normal, like daily food, is filled with more processed stuff and sugar and so on, which I usually don't think about it. When I go out and buy bread in Denmark, you know you're gonna get bread, or you're gonna go buy pasta, and the pasta consists of eggs, water, and flour. That's it.
Yeah.
Salt. But then when you go and look into pasta in the US, and there's like the whole menu of things that is added into it. It's like, how come?
Yeah.
So this is what something that I will have to be more thoughtful about. But we cook at home and so on. So I think we'll be fine. But it will require a bit more adaptation to figure it out. But I think it would happen the same if we, I don't know, move to Hong Kong. It would be the same. We would have to adapt and figure out, where do you buy stuff? How do you do that? How am I now going to exercise, or how am I going to spend time with kids? One thing that I'm really looking forward to is just to work one time zone, or at least three,
Yeah.
with California. But so I don't have to take morning meetings. I don't have to take morning meetings. Nobody asked me to, but I already am up. So I start working at like 9:30ish, 10, and then have a lunch break, then work again, dinner break, and sometimes don't even finish up my dinner, have to go to another meeting. And my day finishes at like 9 or 10, which is over.
That is a lot of work for sure. So it sounds like you will probably pick up a lot of new habits over
Hopefully.
there. And who knows, maybe it is going to be more convenient for you in your day to day. Cool. I'm very, very excited to hear more about that once you moved. Fingers crossed for everything. Maybe as a very last question, has there anything in your life, did you have a certain belief around your own fitness that you always believed about your health that has changed, where you found out a truth that completely changed your mind? And what changed it? What was it? Can you think of anything?
So I grew up in a very, I can't call it a sports family, but my dad, he was a volleyball coach for a national team. My sister then went to that volleyball team as well later. He wanted me to go and I didn't want to. Then I went to the art school. But I grew up close to people who do sports. My cousin is a professional basketball player and like it goes in the family. But I never was that person who did those types of team sports. I just didn't care at that time when I was a teenager, when I was grown up. But from there, then I started doing some physical education. And that's nothing else really. It makes me feel good. People, just like you, people notice, oh, she's toned. To say, yeah, I'm born like this. Sorry to say, but this came with when I was born. Of course, I do train, but I think I need to train less than the rest of the people have to when they struggle to like gain muscle and so on. And I think it is in the genes, but I will have to start working a bit more for that when getting older and so on. So unfortunately, no silver bullets there. Just continue moving.
That's also good. This is also good truth. I think a lot of people haven't figured out yet. Probably not the ones that listen to this podcast, but thank you. Laura, thank you so much for taking the time. It was a pleasure to talk with you about it and hopefully also enjoyable for you not to only talk about marketing and sales and whatnot. I really enjoyed getting to know the private Laura a little bit more. Maybe for the listeners, where can they find more of you? How can they connect with you?
It's only on LinkedIn. I do have an Instagram profile as well. It's not very entertaining, but LinkedIn is more entertaining than that one. So
it certainly is. I can attest to that.
Yeah, exactly. So just on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap on this episode of What the Flex. I hope you found some inspiration and motivation from today's conversation. And if you love this episode, please do subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for What the Flex and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep pushing, keep growing, and as always, keep flexing.